I can find non-Asians attractive, but for the most part, not sexually attracted to them.
Oh, you're Asian. Let's sleep together because you're hot.
I've been with a lot of Vietnamese guys and Filipino guys.
The creature in the darkness that's there waiting for the first little Asian that comes astray.
They have very little hair, body hair, that's what I'm talking about.
Please explain your kink to me.
I would define Rice Queen as anybody who is interested in Asian men or women, depending on, any white person interested in an Asian woman or man.
I know some people define Rice Queens as someone who exclusively date Asian men, but the way I see it is someone who likes Asian men. So in their repertoire of taste includes Asian men.
I wonder who invented the term rice queen. Was it a white guy or an Asian guy?
Generally, the stereotype is a rice queen is a Caucasian guy who's predominantly attracted to Asian men. Obviously, that's a bit exclusory, but it tends to be the stereotype. In fact, if you want to dig into the stereotype, it's usually an older white guy who's attracted to Asian men.
People like to have quick definitions of others, so they try to in order to make an easy judgment, they just pick labels. They say you are a rice queen, you're a potato queen, you are this.
I guess it's used because it serves a purpose. It identifies pretty clearly the attractions of the person you're referring to. It also acknowledges that there is a racial element and an open racial element to gay men's attractions.
We're not sure how to talk about race, and so guys that are sort of dating not in their same racial group is still sort of a big deal in a way. So, but we don't want it to be. So maybe we sort of joke about it and come up with these terms. Maybe that's part of it.
Sometimes you pick up an element of exoticism in the tastes of rice queens, that they think Asian men are some kind of exotic special other, which can sometimes be a kind of positive thing, but it often comes across a little bit, degrading's not quite the right word, but it's treating someone like an orchid is kind of weird.
Well, I think some people perceive it as offensive, even though I haven't seen that's not what I've seen that prevails. I don't think people get offended. But when you look at the term, I think if someone was going to be offended, would be actually the Asian person more than the person being labeled rice queen, because you are saying that all he is rice, all the carbohydrates he eats is just rice. So I think it's the way I see it, it's more offensive to the Asian than to the person being called rice queen.
As far as I know, people are going to only use the term if they either actually want to classify you, oh, the guy's a rice queen, means that he only hooks up with Asians, or, oh, we know how you rice queens are, so that's the type of attack you can have. The funny thing is, I don't know anyone else besides Asians that use the term rice queen.
For me, it doesn't, society labels everything, whether it's your sexuality or what you eat.
I occasionally use the term toxic rice queen to talk about guys who like Asian men but don't really seem to actually like Asian men. Guys who fuck a lot of Asian men but don't have any Asian friends. Rice queens who are not at all friendly towards other rice queens because they're the competition, which is kind of like regarding Asian men like some kind of limited resource. There can be an ugly side to this sort of stuff.
I think my friends have learned to tolerate. I guess, tolerate would be a bad thing. They just learn to accept. It's not something that I'm going to change or I'm willing to change, and it doesn't affect my relationship with my friends.
I do have a gay brother who will always point out pictures of non-Asian men to see what my attraction, if there's an attraction there.
When you ask someone if they are objectifying you or they are only with you because you are Asian, is that the type of sentence that you should ask backwards. Aren't you, instead of the Asian asking someone else, couldn't that person ask the Asian, aren't you staying with me because I'm not Asian, or because I'm white, because I'm Latin, because I'm black?
I remember being on a website once and I got a message from a complete stranger. I can't remember the exact wording, but it was something to the effect of, why is a hot guy like you into chinky chinkies? So I sort of sat there and stared at that for a minute, and then I spent about 15 minutes composing a really scathing reply, and then I thought, screw it, and just blocked him.
I guess because they can't put themselves in your skin, right? Even myself, I would ask myself, why do I like Asians? I can come up with all the excuses in the world, but in the end, it's like, can I change? No.
Sometimes the term is just used by somebody that's like, oh, you're with an Asian guy once, and then they just see that, and then you're a rice queen.
It's weird. If a white guy's into other white guys and no one else, he never has to explain it. If a white guy's into Asian men, it's, oh, that's interesting. You know, it's just not just accepted as a random preference.
I kind of ask questions to them, like if they ask, why are you attracted to Asian men? Well, why are you attracted to white guys? Why are you attracted to black guys? And just kind of put it out there, because it gets them thinking, you know, that, you know, their normal is my normal.
I think it's useful to, for whatever, however you're labeled, or if you have these preferences, to like examine and think about what is the reason, like what's the cultural dynamics in which you're playing, and what's the power dynamics that you have between, obviously for white people being at the top of a racial structure that we have in the world.
Thinking of people differently when it comes to race is obviously fraught, and perhaps you do need to be challenged on it a bit.
Sort of confusing and difficult in the context that we're raised, like we're living in a sort of a racist society and are trying to come out of that.
Like I certainly meet Asian guys who feel hard done by because they think the gay community doesn't value them, and they definitely have a point. You just have to look at the mainstream gay media, and Asian men are pretty much invisible. You know, pick 50 random images of a supposedly hot guy from the cover of a gay magazine, and if you find one Asian guy, you're doing really well. It's sad and it's kind of ridiculous, particularly in a city like Toronto, which is so multicultural.
Let's say last year I went to Taiwan, actually the year before, for 2 weeks, and when I described the experience as very good. The first thing they mentioned was that we know why Taipei was good. We know what you're doing there.
People have expectations, certain people, or even certain certain nationalities of certain Asian folks are bottoms, or there's a lot of jokes about these things, right? That there's and I think there's generalities that are true, and then there's a lot of jokes and overgeneralizations too.
I think the general stereotype is that they tend to be more passive, but in my personal experience, it would be more balanced. So I would say if the stereotype tells you is 90% bottom, they're 90% bottom. In my experience, they would be only around 60. So still more than average, in my experience. Or let's give it 65, I guess. 65 is a better number.
I end up hooking up with other tops, and you get to bed and it's like, okay, yay, Jedi Wars.
You might be bottom one day, you might turn top, you never know. Depends who you're with. The chemistry that you have to get with one person might be different from another person. So the role that you want to do with one might be different than you want to do with the other one.
I don't know why. There's definitely a number of dynamics involved. There's some in terms of this power dynamics or how race plays out. There's some things with preference or looks, I'm still learning and curious about the whole thing.
I guess it's as much, I mean, if you have a preference of one or a type or another, you have to answer both for the good you do within that preference and the good to do outside of it. How do you treat the people that aren't what you want? And that's actually, I think, a general question for the gay community in general. We have a bad habit of not treating people that we're not interested in very well. And it can be pretty cold.